Well, it is the end of week one of the 2024 regular season with the Jets in San Francisco to take on the 49ers, but it is also the beginning of a brand new way to get you set up for primetime games with the Pregame PowerUp right here on DraftKings Network. As you can see, the action is headed toward the Jets over the time frame since the odds first came out. We're going to break it all down for you and get you set for a new way to enjoy football right now. And with that, we welcome you into a brand new era of you to get yourself ready for primetime football games on DraftKings Network. It is simply called the Pregame PowerUp because, well, we're going to power you up for the pregames of primetime. Glad you're with us.
Yeah,
we're just making it very simple, Claudia. Trey Wingo, Claudia Bellafotto is here. Emerson Lazio will join us all season long from really strange places at times.
I heard.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
I mean, it's a good thing he's got his passport because he's going to need it in the places he's going. We'll also take you to the site of Las Vegas to get you set on all the trends that are going into this game as we get closer and closer to the start of Monday Night Football. But we're going to be here all season long on Monday and Thursday nights on DraftKings Network, 6 to 7 Eastern, giving you everything you need to know as we get set for Monday Night Football, Week 1, Jets in San Francisco to take on the 49ers. And, of course, we all know what that means. It is the return of that man, as in Aaron Rodgers. We all know the story by now. Aaron Rodgers went down in the Monday night game just 4 plays into it in Monday Night Football. All the expectations for the Jets basically went out the window when he went down with that Achilles tear after 4 plays. After dealing with a ton of expectations and a ton of things all offseason and all through the regular season, where he kept thinking about coming back or trying to say he would come back, he never came back. But he is coming back tonight. Aaron Rodgers on what to expect.
Just can't ride the highs too high, and then the whole world's crashing down after a tough game. Regardless of what happens on Monday, we win, the headline's going to be, we're going to the Super Bowl. We lose, same old Jets. So I think we need to get away from some of those outside themes and trust that the program, if it's good enough week 1, it's good enough the rest of the season. So we got to trust the process, be great competitors, show up, be professionals, and show out on the field, and let the chips fall where they may.
He just went trust the process on us. So are we doing the Sixers thing again? What are we doing?
Do we really trust him, too?
Are we going down that road? I don't know. But here's the road people are going down. Each game we're going to identify an interesting line in the DK Sportsbook to point out to all of you. It's our power-up play of the game. And tonight it's the AFC East Division futures because bettors are very bullish on the Jets this season. New York opened at plus 300 and have been all the way to 185. It seems like the people believe in Rodgers returning and leading New York to a division crown for the first time since 2002. Now, prior to Sunday's action, they were the favorite to win the division and will certainly jump back to the top if they pull out a win in San Francisco tonight. And if they do win tonight, it would be a clean sweep for the AFC East, including the Patriots with that surprise win in Cincinnati, which we're still trying to figure out.
RIP to all the survivor pools.
Right, that was everybody's pick, right? And suddenly you're out week 1 as Joe Burrow and the Bengals were very disappointing. Obviously, Jet fans are hoping for it not to be too disappointing for them tonight. But Claudia, here's something you need to help me with.
Okay.
I need your help here, okay? I get it. The Jets are all in. They got a great defense. And Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback, first ballot. You could argue he's on the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks in the NFL. I get all of that. But the Jets are historically a team that finds a way to fail. Just so you know, they haven't been to the playoffs since 2010. Not only is that the longest drought in the NFL, that's the longest drought in the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NHL, and the NBA.
All the sports.
All the sports. Sorry, MLS, we didn't put you in there. We love you, but this is a different football thing we're talking about here, okay? So they have the longest drought possible in making the postseason. And then to get to a Super Bowl, because if you trade for Aaron Rodgers, like, you don't just trade for Aaron Rodgers to go, 9-8 and sneak in as a wild card.
Yeah.
You got to get at least to a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers has 12 playoff wins on his resume against 10 losses, even though I don't believe wins and losses are a quarterback stat, and only 1 Super Bowl appearance. So how is a guy who has come up short a lot of times in the postseason playing for a team who always seems to come up short. Why is all the money going on the Jets? Help me.
Well, I think heading into this season, people looked at the Bills and said they lost a ton of pieces. Josh Allen MVP was one of my favorite bets because I said if they do play to expectation and somehow win this division, it's because of Josh Allen and everything they lost. People looked at the Patriots, thought they would be the worst. A lot of people still think that was a fluke week one. They still could be the worst. And then Miami, people just seem to be down on them despite the stacked roster. I think people look at the Jets and what they were able to do with a 7-win season with who at quarterback, right? We're talking Tim Boyle, Zach Wilson, terrible, Trevor Siemian. They beat the Bills in week one with that quarterback. They kept it within a field goal with the Chiefs, 30-6 win over the Texans, who were on fire at the end of the season there. So people looked at that and said, oh, we're going to have that same top number 1 ranked defense, top 5 O-line, and then we're going to plug Aaron Rodgers into the equation. I think that is the explanation as to why people are so high on the Jets.
I mean, I get it, but I'm just going on, everything the Jets have ever done in their
franchise the Jets
history.
Don't make the playoffs.
I mean, it's just the way it goes. So hopefully it changes. Fair. By the way, that defense that they hope was going to be really good, Hassan Reddick is not playing. He's still holding out for a contract. Yeah. So he's forfeiting $800,000 a game check. That's committed, okay? And oh, by the way, this other thing, this is why you have to interpret stats differently. According to the research, Aaron Rodgers has won 10 straight Monday Night Football games, one shy of the record held by Ken Stabler. He gets credited for the win last year on Monday Night Football when he played 4 plays. The game went to overtime, and the Jets won it on a kick return in overtime. Yet because Aaron Rodgers started the game, he gets credit for the win. It don't make no sense.
That's all you say, wins and losses, right?
Ted Lasso, that don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. So time to head to the DraftKings trading floor in Las Vegas and bring in Stormy Buonantony to take us into the eye of the storm, and maybe she can help all of this make sense for us. Stormy, good to have you with us on Pregame PowerUp. What can you tell us? What are you looking at right now?
I appreciate you. And Trey, it's very nice to be around a like-minded individual because we talk about all of those people and the money that's coming in on the Jets in the division. Couldn't be me. I'm not about that life. Actually, one of the bets that I really liked in this offseason was fading them and having them to miss the playoffs at a plus money price because Michael Lombardi and I, my colleague over at VSiN, former NFL general manager, we've had this joke all offseason that we call the Jets the ifers because notice every statement that anybody says about the Jets for this year as well. If Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, if that offensive line stays healthy and can protect, if they have leadership from the head coach and the offensive coordinator, then oh my gosh, the sky is the limit for the Jets. They could be unbelievable. They have an elite defense, all of these things. That's a lot of ifs for me. And so I, like you, Trey, I'm just betting on the Jets to do what the Jets have always done for the last 13 straight years and miss the postseason. So that's an angle that I have on the Jets personally. For as much as I love the additions as they made on the offensive line with Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, they both have serious injury history recently. Smith, I want to say, has missed 37 games over the course of the last 4 years. Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old coming off a significant injury. Yeah. And we're just like, oh, yeah, they're going to be unbelievable. I don't know. It just couldn't be me.
Well, listen, we are certainly like-minded in that way. And, he's going to be 41 in December. Look, if it works out great, I know a lot of my friends are long-suffering Jet fans. I wish nothing but the best for them. But there's a reason just end the season is the acronym we all understand when we talk about the Jets. Okay, let's go to Aaron Rodgers specifically. He's been the favorite to win comeback player of the year. What are you seeing on this market?
Yeah, and he's the most bet player. He's the favorite for a reason. It's been bet down all the way to plus 125, which for a futures market, that isn't exactly my favorite type of price. In these instances, you try to get a little bit more bang for your buck when you can. So Aaron Rodgers wouldn't be the bet for me for a lot of the reasons that I've already laid out for you. There are a handful of quarterbacks who are coming back from injury that I think could be intriguing. But it's funny coming off of the first full weekend of NFL action, how many people are talking about Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold after the performance that he had against the Giants. But I think a couple things are important to remember here too. It's still the Giants, and a lot of the things I said about the Jets, I guess, could qualify for the Giants as well with their history and what we saw there in week one. But a good reminder here, the Associated Press earlier this year sent out a memo to voters that based on the way that Comeback Player of the Year transpired last year, they wanted to remind voters that this is an award that is supposed to recognize a player who has overcome illness, physical injury, or circumstances that cause major adversity. I don't think being bad and being relegated to a backup quarterback matches those prerequisites for the honor. So I would just say maybe Sam Darnold and players like that who are just coming back from not being very good wouldn't be a place to put my money on.
Well, Geno Smith a couple of years ago sort of wrote that check, but you're right. They have certainly changed the way they want people to perceive this award. And then let's go specifically, Stormy, to the game tonight. What's in the prop market for what you're seeing in this game tonight?
Yes, so personally, I am all over Breece Hall tonight, but in the receiving game, I think because Aaron Rodgers hasn't worked behind this offensive line in a while, he is coming off injury, maybe he'd be quick to some of those dump-off passes. Breece Hall was, as far as a running back position goes, he had the most receptions by the running back position all of last season. I think that over 3.5 receptions is a good angle, over 28.5 receiving yards, and there's an alt over 34.5 receiving yards I like for Breece Hall at plus 140 that could be worth a look.
All right, Stormy, we'll look in and see what happens tonight. And good to have you on the show. And we will be checking in with you all season long from the trading desk in Las Vegas. Stormy Buonantony with us. All right, Claudia, what do you got for us now?
Well, I just want to know where all this Jets hate is coming from.
Not hate.
It's not even day
None
one
of this
yet.
is hate. Let's up. It is an interpretation of data. It is an interpretation of
whatever. Okay, well, that's what we think here behind the scenes. I really want to know, though, where the DraftKings liability is. And we actually have somebody coming in under the guise of anonymity to tell us. His name is Captain Book.
It's been a tumultuous offseason for the 49ers, and the curse of the Super Bowl hangover looms large tonight as they open their season against a very popular Jets team. This century, Super Bowl losers are 5-19 against the spread in Week 1, and Shanahan is just 2-5 in his head coaching career. The main question for us is, how much will their offensive superstars play? Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, and Trent Williams have not taken a snap this offseason, and our lines have shifted considerably on sharp action. The spread has moved from 5.5 to 4, and our total has dropped from 46.5 down to 43. The public also loves the Jets tonight, but unlike the Sharps, they're backing the over after Week 1 scoring was up considerably. Our best outcome will be a low-scoring Niners win, but if there's one thing we desperately need to avoid, it's a CMC touchdown. He's our most bet player for both first and anytime touchdown markets across all of Week 1.
All right, Captain Book, thanks very much. And again, we're going to be completely honest with you here. We're telling you the things that open up the most exposure to DraftKings as a sports book. We're not just telling you, hey, do this bet and we'll be good. No, we're giving you both sides of the coin here, which I think is important.
I do think it's important, too. It's interesting to hear they need a low-scoring Niners win, basically, is what they're saying. And honestly, I don't really see this game being a shootout. We'll talk about the trend when it comes to unders as well, but I think the books might be okay here. I mean, they're getting a ton of Jets money, but the Niners are the favorite. They opened up at some shops at 6, like he just said. You know, we don't know who he is, but opened up 6. So a lot of Jets money came in.
Well, and the other thing to remember is historically, Super Bowl losers have a tough time Week 1. That Super Bowl hangover can be a real thing. We'll see if San Francisco can keep that going. The unders have hit, by the way, for San Francisco in their last 7 home games, including the postseason. So they've been on a trend.
Trends. If we're talking trends here, last 24 years, Super Bowl loser 5-19 against the spread in Week 1 following the loss in the Super Bowl, which would be the 49ers.
It's like we had the same data, and we figured it out. All right. Well, we hope you're going to stay with us because we are just getting started on what we expect to be a very long and wonderful career here on Pregame PowerUp. And our first show is just getting started. When we come back, we will take a look at a Week 1 trend that you need to know about, plus how the Niners' offseason holdouts will impact the game tonight with former NFL lineman Marshall Newhouse. It's all ahead. We are just getting started, people. It is the Pregame PowerUp.
our first in trend here on Pregame PowerUp. We're going to be doing this every week, pointing out some trends that you should keep in mind when it comes to betting this game. And this week, it is at NFL unders go off in week 1. 40-23 in the last 3 seasons, 2-1 in the last 3 Monday Night Football openers. But look at this, even individually for both squads. 9-1 to the over for San Francisco, 4-1 to the over in the Jets' last 5 season openers. So if you're debating and you're a trends guy or gal, the under is boding well for this game. You know what also is boding well to the under? Brandon Ayuk, who did hold out last week by signing a 4-year extension worth $120 million. He was holding out all offseason, I should say, but he signed this 4-year extension worth $120 million, expected to have a reduced number of snaps. According to Coach Kyle Shanahan on Saturday, the Niners star receiver spoke earlier this week about being ready to go despite missing practice time and how his contract situation played out.
I just had a feel for what I wanted. Not just in terms of money, but in all those teams that you said. And ultimately, I wanted to be here, and I ended up being here. So I'm happy. I'm good. I'm happy. I'm ready to go. I think I'm not gonna lie. I made it a little bit more difficult than it needed to at the end. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was like that from. I'm not gonna say the whole entire time, but for about the past month, I think we were pretty good.
Made it more difficult at the end? Yeah, you
Just
think?
because he wanted to, apparently.
Oh, man. Prop bets for tonight, and Ayuk reception set at 3.5. Receiving yards 50 on the hook. Anytime touchdown plus 190. Take a look at last season, though. He averaged just under 5 catches a game, just under 84 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. So, I mean, you would think these numbers sound right. Feels like good value, but we know he's going to be on a snap count, so that's why they're low.
Well, it's interesting, too. He was really honest about what he said there because according to reports, basically, when push came to shove about the contract, the 49ers basically said, look, we have a deal in place, and if you don't take this deal, we're pushing the trade through.
Right.
So it eventually, my good friend Andrew Brandt always has this thing, deadline spur actions. Like, you know, it's all fun and games to say, well, I will go back in this. But finally, when somebody says, here's the line, this is it. We're not going here. You decide. It's amazing how quickly things get done when you automatically put something in the sand like that.
And of course, it was Trent Williams and Ayuk. Those were the 2 big headlines holding out in the offseason. Trent Williams, they say, is good to go. He should be good. But Ayuk, they're putting a snap count on. How much does that affect this offense, you think, against, like I said, the #1 ranked defense in the Jets?
Well, not only that, but this is a really interesting matchup for me because if you go back, and again, we're going on last year's data, and I understand every year is different. For example, last year the Texans went in as a 2-win team, and they won the division. So we have these massive swings. 19 of the last 21 years, we've had a team go from worst to first in their division. But if you look at the strength of both of these teams, the 49ers last year led the league in yards per play at 6.6. Conversely, the Jets led the league in fewest yards per play allowed by their defense, 4.6. So when that offense and defense is on the field, it is really going to be a strength versus strength matchup.
But do you think, like I'm making it very simple here, offense versus defense, defense versus offense on the both sides. You don't give the Jets the edge both ways with the Trent Williams question mark on the O-line for the 49ers. The 49ers having the 4th defensive coordinator in the last 5 years. Them having a 24th ranked offensive line. You don't give the edge to the Jets. I know you're confused about the Aaron Rodgers side of it, but if we're talking in the trenches, the Jets have the edge.
Here's the way I would answer that. Yes, all of those things make sense until you plug in it's the Jets. Like I'm just being honest about it, right? Well, every year, we got this. Remember Brett Favre? They didn't make the playoffs with Brett Favre. Like, I get it. I understand they have a talented roster without Hassan Reddick there. I understand all of these things. But my friends who are Jets fans say we're the most haunted franchise in football. These are the fans of the team saying this, okay? So listen, I hope it all works out. There's a lot of agita and angst with a lot of people I know about the Jets, but I spent 6 years in St. Louis before I got to where I used to work. Missouri's called the Show Me State. I got to see it before I'm going to believe it. Again, longest playoff drought in all 4 of the big sports.
Let me ask you this, though. The way that the Chiefs were able to stifle the 49ers offense in the Super Bowl, and that's what everybody said coming into it, on paper, the 49ers, who's going to beat them? And the Chiefs' defense did improve last season. They were one of the best. But now we're talking the best That doesn't worry you at all?
It doesn't worry me. I mean, it's certainly and again, we'll see what this defense is. I still don't like the trade they made, sending a younger, aggressive Bryce Huff for Hassan Reddick. I would think I'd rather have Bryce Huff on my team than Hassan Reddick.
I haven't seen Hassan Reddick since he signed the paper.
Exactly. So look, it could all work out. But again, remember the Cleveland Browns had the #1 defense last year, according to yards, which is what the NFL official stat is. And the Cowboys did pretty much anything they wanted to do. Yeah. And the defense for the Cleveland Browns last year, if you look at their splits, they were amazing at home, and they were very mediocre on the road. Well, the Cowboys went on there and basically got up 20 and said, we're good, guys. Do whatever you got to do. Yeah. So, again, year to year, unless you have a franchise quarterback, which the Jets do, we believe, for more than 4 plays, it should work out. But, again, I'm going to be hesitant to be all in on the Jets until I see some positive results. That's it.
Okay, wait and see.
I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying history is on my side.
I hear you.
That's all I'm saying. All right.
Okay.
We got a lot more to get into, including want to bring in the next member of the Pregame PowerUp cast, and that is former offensive lineman Marshall Newhouse. Spent a lot of years in the league, played for a lot of quarterbacks, including Aaron Rodgers. Played his college ball at TCU in Fort Worth. We're glad to have Marshall on the show with us. Marshall, first and foremost, we've seen this trend recently, especially week 1, because we have fewer preseason games and hardly anybody plays in preseason games. It feels like week 1 is an extended version of the summer. It just counts. Is that why we're seeing so many of these unders hit early on in the season?
That's definitely one reason. I think it's kind of an amalgamation of things. But yeah, even when there were 4 weeks of training camp, 2-a-days, all these things, we used to say defenses typically started faster. I won't insult my defensive brethren out there. There's just less things that they have to worry about, less things they have to install on an aggregate basis. So they're usually going to be ahead of the offenses. You couple in a lot of young quarterbacks in the NFL, a lot of quarterbacks on new teams and new systems. You put all that together, and then you also add in, with the icing on top, this overall trend of defenses saying, hey, we're going to play 2-shell. We're going to bore you to death because we don't think you can hold it in for an entire game and not throw us picks, not try to take crazy shots. We don't think you can dink and dunk and go on a 12, 13, 14 play drive. So you put all those things together, and that's why you've got the lowest touchdown rate for week 1 in about 6 years. So you put all those things together, and yeah, it's a trend for sure.
You also have a 4-time MVP coming in, who Trey just talked about, in Aaron Rodgers. Of course, that's the massive storyline here, but you're the best person to ask this question. First, emotionally, I'm very curious what you would be feeling in that moment, knowing you're about to protect the guy that's supposed to be the savior for the Jets. Is that more pressure? And sort of what's going through your mind in that? What does that mean for a no lineman heading into a game like this?
Listen, I can't speak for being a member of the Jets organization, but the pressure and just the angst that fan base has felt, that adds to all of these expectations heaped that were swiped out from under him last year with his injury and now have redoubled on top to start this season. So yes, there's absolutely a lot of pressure. You bring in a guy like Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, you bolster your backfield getting Breece Hall back. Everything points to this team has to win and needs to win now. Aaron Rodgers is also 40 years old coming off of this Achilles injury. So everything is bubbling up for the Jets, who as a fan base are used to being disappointed, but I think there's a lot of potential there, but that's what it has been most of the time, which is potential. And so week 1, we saw the whole slate on Sunday. You don't overreact week 1, but there's a lot of built up emotion in that locker room right now.
Well, listen, everybody overreacts to week 1. I mean, they shouldn't, but they do, yes. Right? It's week 1 sometimes. Well, definition, the Carolina Panthers are on the clock. The Bengals aren't going to make the playoffs. All this stuff does happen week 1. Now, listen, everybody loves quarterbacks, all right? I myself am partial to offensive linemen. My son played offensive line in college, so I'm going to give you some love right now, Marshall, okay? I'm going to read some numbers for you, and I want you to tell me why offensive line play is important. Trent Williams, we talked about him, finally got that deal done. We'll see how much he plays. These are the splits for Brock Purdy last season with and without Trent Williams on the line. With Williams, 582 dropbacks, 41 touchdowns against 11 interceptions, a pressure rate of only 36%, and a 111.4 passer rating. Without Trent Williams, and 91 dropbacks, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a pressure rate of 45%, and a 94 passer rating. So when everybody loves the quarterback, I always like to say, hey, if the quarterback's on he ain't doing anything. So how important is it for someone like Trent Williams to be there and beat Trent Williams for Brock Purdy against this really tough Jets defense?
Yeah, it's absolutely vital. And it would be vital regardless of the situation, but it's even more vital given the way that this team and this offense is structured. Kyle Shanahan, as we call him, one of the best play callers in the league right now, and I believe he is, but everything that he does is contingent on the guys that he has handpicked and hand-designed all of these things around being active and being in this offense, from Debo to Ayuk to George Kittle to Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams, which you don't normally associate a lineman with being part of a game scheme plan. But he is absolutely that guy. He's PFF's best-rated run blocker in the NFL multiple times. You mentioned the drop-off for Brock Purdy. There's a drop-off in the run game, both in the direction that they run and with the guys that come in to relieve Trent Williams. And so he is absolutely vital. He's a Texas boy, so I root for him, but he's got to get into condition. I want to temper his expectations for week 1. He's had this holdout, which I think the contract is totally deserved, but there's going to be some moments, even though he's a pro, he's still a guy in his upper 30s who's going to have to acclimate really, really fast. But I think when he's there and he's got his wind underneath him, this is a different 49ers offense. And I look for them to make some noise today, especially we just talked about this trend and offense being down. It's because there's less explosive in the pass game, but that means that these runs, these more efficient runs on first, second down, these different kind of play actions that kind of keep teams off balance are going to be more prevalent early in this game. And I think Trent Williams speaks to that.
Well, Marshall, there's a lot of Jet slander, but you're making a massive point here. We're talking about the 3 players on the San Francisco roster who have question marks in Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, and CMC, who is banged up. So the Jets are getting a lot of shade over here at DraftKings Network. I'm curious which way you go with this. The Niners are the favorite in this spot. Do you think the Jets could pull an upset here?
I normally take the home team on these openers, but the first game is different in a lot of ways. One being that you prepare for this first team more than just this week before. They've been doing little game installs every week throughout camp, maybe at the end of minicamp, little tiny little things with the quarterbacks, receivers. So you've had a lot of time to think about just this one team. And I think this veteran team with a lot of sense of urgency for the Jets, I think they win against the spread. Yes, they're away, they're across country, but it's a different feeling for week 1 when you're not in the throes of week to week traveling back and forth. I give them the edge tonight.
All right, Marshall, we'll see how it works out. And I tell you what, if you're right, drinks are on me at Joe T. Garcia's, all right?
There we go.
There you go. See, he knows. If you've been, you know. Joe T's is a legend.
It's the pictures of Margs. I got you, Trent. Let's go.
Ooh.
It's not my first time, Marshall. I'll just tell you that right now. All right, Marshall Newhouse, thanks for being with us. He'll be joining us all season long.
Thanks, guys.
And we're looking at odds and trends, and 3 of the top 10 players in the Offensive Player of the Year category are playing in this game tonight. Most notably, there's been a ton of money coming in on Breece Hall. He's currently 6th in the odds with Tyreek Hill, the favorite after his 130-yard touchdown performance yesterday against the Jags, despite having a altercation, shall we say, with some authorities before he got to the stadium. Apparently he's got a little of that Scotty Scheffler in him. Has an issue with authorities and still goes out and balls. Tyreek Hill with a classic touchdown celebration.
The celebration was so good.
The celebration was so choice.
So
Tyreek.
good.
I really appreciate that. But you mentioned the CMC thing is interesting, right? Because Joe Burrow started slow last year as a quarterback with a calf strain. Now, they say he's fine, should be ready to go. But you're a running back, like your legs are everything.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how much, because not only did they say calf, they said and some Achilles issues. And you never, ever want to see the calf and the Achilles connected on the injury report. So I'm going to keep my eye on Christian McCaffrey very closely tonight.
You would think, too, maybe if he does, and he's going to go, they said it's going to be a normal workload, but I tend to think maybe they just put him in there to distract the defense, because you take him out, the defensive scheme gets that much easier.
Well, Mike Shanahan, Kyle's father, once notoriously in a Super Bowl, Terrell Davis, Hall of Famer, suffered from migraines, and he had one during the game against the Packers, and Shanahan said, listen, I know you can't see from the headache, but can you go in? We won't give you the ball, but if you're not in, they don't think we're going to run it.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah.
That's amazing.
So we put him in despite migraine headaches.
All right, we will be back with more. We're going to be hearing from our friend Johnny Avello. He has set a certain line on what we may be seeing from Aaron Rodgers. And Emerson Latzia, he's in Egypt. We'll get to that.
It makes
right
sense,
back.
trust me.
Yeah, it's Emerson, so. A 40-year-old quarterback coming back from an Achilles injury. Oh, and he's supposed to be the savior for the New York Jets. You couldn't ask for a better storyline. We asked Johnny Avello to set a line for how many times we will see Aaron Rodgers' Achilles, his ankle, his leg, all of the lower body, how many times the line is set at 4.5. And we want to know what you think. Will it be more? Will it be 5 or more or less? 4 or less? And if I know anything about the NFL, it'll probably be more, Trey.
Yeah, I would hammer the over here. It's like, how many cutaways are we going to have at Taylor Swift? Like,
Exactly.
Take the over, always take the over. How are the under? That makes no
72%.
sense. That makes no sense.
We should have put juice on there, you know,
Yeah.
to make it a little.
Speaking of making no sense, it's a perfect segue to our next segment. All right, so just bear with me here, good people, as I tell you what's going to happen next. We talked about a lot of the drama with the San Francisco 49ers, right? With the Brandon Ayuk thing, we're going to trade him, we're not going to trade him, the holdout, the Trent Williams holdout. There has been some drama for the Jets as well. We mentioned Hassan Reddick still not there. There was an impasse over the contract. And then there was Aaron Rodgers, the hero, the savior, who mysteriously could not read a calendar. And he planned a trip to Egypt at the exact same time as mandatory minicamp. That's when Aaron decided to go on vacation. And Robert Saleh, the head coach, had this awkward, he's not excused, but we understand why he's not here. And then we found out he was in Egypt. So what exactly did Aaron Rodgers do in Egypt? And now the scariest sentence I will ever utter. Here's Emerson Latzia to try and figure that out.
Thank you so much, Trey. That's right, here in Egypt. It's hot, it's sandy. It's where Aaron Rodgers went on vacation instead of attending Jets mandatory minicamp. And one thing we know for sure, it wasn't a family vacation. So I did some digging into what exactly was so important that Mr. Rodgers was nowhere in the neighborhood while the Jets were on the practice field. Take a look at these exclusive photos obtained by DraftKings from his trip. Here's Mr. Rodgers getting up close and personal with the camel instead of his playbook. Here he is standing under the Sphinx instead of under center behind the Jets' offensive line. And one more for you. Here he is getting a hookup on what we can only assume is a hallucinogenic tea at a local bazaar instead of hooking up with his receivers in 11-on-11 drills. Now, we all know Aaron likes to spend his time in the dark, and rumor has it he stayed 3 days in the tomb of King Khufu beneath the Great Pyramid of Giza. And joining me now is the decaying king himself, who looks fantastic for his age. Pharaoh, thank you for joining us. Is it true you and the future Hall of Fame quarterback were roommates during his stay? All right, fascinating stuff. I thought he would be much cleaner than that. What did you guys talk about? Well, he does have his conspiracy theories, so that does not shock me at all. While I have you here, though, what is your outlook on the Jets season now that Rodgers has returned? A curse, you say? Well, how long have you been hanging out with Jets players, am I right? All right, Pharaoh, thank you. That's a wrap. I'm Emerson Latzer reporting live from the Great Pyramids. Back to you, Trey.
I could watch that endlessly, I just want to say, for the record. And also, Emerson, I need to borrow that hat the next time we play golf.
What a fit.
Well, the fit for the king was really impressive. How those bandages have held up for these thousands of years. I mean, it really looked like they were just put on him. So that was really impressive work.
It almost sounded like an ad lib just telling that story.
More like a Mad Lib.
A Mad Lib.
More than anything else. All right, get us back on track with touchdowns. Will you please save us?
Shall we
save us from ourselves.
Making some money,
Yes.
some constructive conversation. Let's talk about touchdowns. This is always a fun market, and DraftKings is actually the best sportsbook to bet the touchdown market. There were some money makers on a Sunday. Cooper Kupp, he's back, baby, and he's scoring touchdowns once again. He had a nice win against the Lions. Not enough to get the victory, but it did win bettors a bunch of money. That was plus 130. Since when? You have to lay crazy juice for Cooper Kupp usually. Jonathan Taylor around even money. David Montgomery for the Lions, juiced at minus 145, and Tyreek Hill minus 125, like we said, with that awesome Selly. DraftKings is very interesting because you can actually bet Christian McCaffrey tonight to not score a touchdown.
Why would you do that?
It's plus money.
It's true.
A lot of books don't have that, though.
Yeah.
And also keep in mind, as we go on in the season, Christian McCaffrey, because he scores often.
A lot,
which we'll get to in a sec. It's usually juiced crazy. So DraftKings is a good spot to bet either to score or not to score for Christian McCaffrey and friends tonight. We will be doing this all season long, taking a look at the touchdown market, and our social media correspondent, Megan Townsley, will tell us how everybody else is betting it.
Alrighty, so we already had some winners in the DraftKings Sportsbook betting groups yesterday after a wild slate of Sunday football games. So let's see what's being cooked up tonight for Jets 49ers. PFT commenter from the Pardon My Take podcast is parlaying Breece Hall and George Kittle to get a touchdown tonight. Plain and simple, I mean, I love it. Give me a fired up George Kittle to get a touchdown pretty much any day of the week. PFT is also going with over 3.5 field goals made tonight. And is this because of what we saw yesterday with the Steelers scoring 6 field goals to beat the Falcons 18-10 without a single touchdown? I mean, hey, if we're backing the kickers, be my guest, but Jake Moody and Greg Zuerlein, it's your time to shine. These betting groups are fun, let me tell you, because not only can you view other DraftKings Sportsbook users' bets, but you can comment on them, you can interact, like them, dislike them, or even tail them if you want to. But let me show you where you can actually find these groups. You're gonna open up your DK Sportsbook app or go to the website, find the social tab at the top, and then select betting groups. So go ahead and go check this out for yourself tonight before the game and see, are users rolling with a Rodgers redemption?
A Rodgers redemption. Well, a lot of people are rolling with Christian McCaffrey to score a touchdown, which is not surprising. It is juiced minus 165, but the reason you want to bet at DraftKings is because that is relatively cheap. Other shops up to minus 300, which means you would have to risk $300 straight to win 100. That's not great value. Where there is some value on the board, though, is with Breece Hall at plus 110, Garrett Wilson plus 125, Debo plus 160, and George Kittle plus 175. I'm curious where you're going, Trey, but first I do want to point out, see at the bottom there, CMC to not score a touchdown, plus 125, which is a play if you think maybe he's, just a decoy out there.
I do feel like, though, if he's good enough to play, they're absolutely going to use him in short yardage situations, right? Like
you have to.
If you're sort of cautious about Christian McCaffrey, once they get inside the 20,
Yes.
CMC is going to be on the field, okay? And here's why CMC is going to be on the field. We've sort of alluded to it throughout this show. The touchdown streak from a couple years ago was ridiculous. He scored a touchdown in 17 straight games from December 4th, 2022 to the end of October in 2023. And if you had just placed a $100 bet and rolled that over those 17 weeks, that $100 bet would have profited $715,519 and more importantly, 19 cents. So even though we're a little concerned, Claudia, about him, if he's playing and they're inside the red zone, he's on the field, I absolutely would put money on McCaffrey scoring.
But you would risk 165 to win 100. I don't think the value's there. That's my issue.
I just want to win.
I
just want to win.
Money, so I don't have money. I shouldn't be talking. I don't have $165 to spend. What I would do is go further down the board with the plus money. You look at a Garrett Wilson who was top 10 in receiving targets when it came to wide receivers, and that was with a terrible quarterback carousel. Now you throw Aaron Rodgers in there, despite maybe people don't think Aaron Rodgers will be great. Throughout the game, I think in the red zone, I trust him. So Garrett Wilson at plus 125. Breece Hall, same situation, that short yardage. You lean on the ground game, maybe if the passing game's not going well. And then how about George Kittle, plus 175? He had the third most red zone targets of all tight ends. And I think maybe if Brock Purdy's feeling a little bit shaky, if the O-line's not complete, protection's not there, some check down, short pass situations might be good when it comes to the red zone for George Kittle.
Yeah, and for whatever, Aaron Rodgers struggles against the 49ers in the postseason. He's never beaten them in the postseason, 0-4. He's actually 6-3 in the regular season. The Packers teams that he quarterbacked are 6-3 against San Francisco in the regular season, but just 1-2 in the month of September. So I'm giving you a lot of mitigating factors. I just want your brain to be as confused as ours is on a daily basis. And speaking of confused brains, Jet fans, you know what I'm talking about. We mentioned off the top of the show, Hassan Reddick is not there. He wants that new contract. And by the way the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, is now constructed, these millions of dollars in fines, he's not getting it back. Like, you can't get it back the way a team used to be able to forgive you. Okay, you came in, we'll just forgive the debt. It does not work that way. That's why we had these hold-ins like you've seen with Jamar Chase and other players. So Hassan Reddick is not there. So we're talking about $800,000 a game check plus the $5 million, as I said, in NFL-mandated fines that he's already accumulated. So how is this Jets defense, which was so good last year with Bryce Huff, and now he's out and they don't have Hassan Reddick going to be there either, how is that Jets defense going to go against a really good 49ers offense from a year ago? For that, we're going to check in with the one and only group that could figure this out, our guys from God Bless Football.
Thanks, Trey. All right, Hassan Reddick. This is interesting because Hassan Reddick was traded away from Philadelphia to the New York Jets. The Jets promised him a long-term deal. They asked him to show up to practice. In Reddick's mind, just accepting the trade to the Jets, in his mind, is showing up to practice. Yet, this has not been done yet. So Hassan Reddick is still out there. How do the Jets stop the San Francisco offense without Hassan Reddick? I don't know.
It's great analysis.
I mean, no, honestly, I don't know. I don't know if they could stop the San Francisco offense with Hassan Reddick. So,
well, I mean, they have the Williams brothers. They have Jermaine Johnson. They have Sauce. They have C.J. Mosley.
Yes.
They have pieces. This is a weird one, I think, for Hassan Reddick, because at this point, what are we hoping to accomplish, right? Like, is he thinking that he's going to be Chris Jones of last year, that it's going to be one game and they're like, oh, we really need you, and then they're going to give him a big deal? Because Chris Jones kind of just had his incentives restructured and then signed the big deal this past offseason.
Right.
The difference between Hassan Reddick and Chris Jones is Chris Jones was there for a while. Chris Jones was a team captain. Chris Jones had built up that good relationship with the Chiefs that Hassan Reddick has not. Hassan Reddick wanted to get a big deal, and they told him, okay, you come here, and then we'll discuss it once you show up. And he simply hasn't done that. Joe Douglas hasn't spoken to him since this trade happened.
Well, he wants him to show up to the actual facility, which Hassan Reddick hasn't done, because in his mind, I'm telling you, Billy, he's saying, hey, I agreed to the trade. You agreed to give me a long-term deal. You knew what came with trading for me, and the Jets have yet to deliver on what he thought was a promise from the New York Jets. I have to put it on the Jets. I really do. You trade for Hassan Reddick knowing the guy wants a long-term deal, give him the long-term deal. And by the way, he is deserving of a long-term deal. He is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL.
He is deserving of a long-term deal, but at this point, I don't think there's a scenario in which he's going to not lose money this year, right? He's already, according to Schefter, lost nearly $5 million. He's going to lose $800,000 for missing this game and every game that he misses to follow. He's also, because of the CBA and because of the fact that they have in there that he's a veteran, they cannot rescind these fines. So at a certain point, his contract was $14.25 million. He's already lost over $5 million. He's not going to make it back this year. He's just costing himself more and more money the more time he doesn't show up.
According to a lot of reports, he agreed to a Band-Aid deal where the Jets said, listen, come in, we're going to fix your guarantees, we're going to fix your incentives, we're not going to give you some long-term deal yet, but when you're in the building, we'll figure it out. And as soon as they trade away John Franklin Myers, he thought, now I have the leverage and I'm going to hold out and they're going to panic. I don't see Joe Douglas doing that. But I'll tell you this, I think the Jets can scheme pass rush today. I think they can use the guys they have, and they're going to use their high motor guys to get pass rush. What I'm worried about is the running game, because I think the Jets are very light up front. They're without Lecky Fotu, their big defensive tackle, who's supposed to be their run stuffer. So I think they're going to be a little weak in the middle, not so much on the outside.
Let's go back to Trey. Trey, the way you stop the Niners offense is by not allowing them on the field.
That's called keep away. I would agree with you, Stu Gatz. Guys, always great to have you on the show. And you mentioned what we're seeing here, right? The 49ers averaged 7.3 yards per play with Purdy, McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, and Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams on the field together last season. And at the last possible second, it looks like they all indeed will be on the field at some point. That, of course, via our good friends at Next Gen Stats. All right, lots more to come here on the Pregame PowerUp. When we come back, both teams playing in this Monday night game are confident that they're going to have a really deep playoff run, but how much confidence does the betting public have that their Super Bowl teams? We'll delve into that next as we continue on the Pregame PowerUp on DraftKings Network. All right, we've been talking a lot about the sportsbook tonight, but don't forget about those fantasy lineups. Tonight, you could become a millionaire by entering DraftKings Millie Maker contest for Jets and Niners. The contest has a $2.25 million prize pool with $1 million going to first place. It's really simple. Just draft a 6-player lineup, staying under the $50,000 salary cap. Select a captain to rack up to 1.5 times the points, but for 1.5 times the salary. It's just $15 to enter. Visit DraftKings.com for more details. And before you do that, we have some breaking news.
Man.
And it is a big one for tonight's game. According to Mike Garofalo and Ian Rappaport, Christian McCaffrey, who we've talked about as that touchdown maker, inactive for tonight's game. We have been talking about this all summer long. The Niners and other people said, he should be fine and ready to go. In the back of my mind, I'm like, hold up now. When Joe Burrow went down with a calf strain at the start of training camp last year, everyone was majorly concerned, and he made it back for the start of the season. But you could tell as a quarterback, he was not right. He was not able to drive off that leg because of the calf strain. Now you take Christian McCaffrey, who is a running back. His entire job is dependent on his legs working. This is a significant injury or a significant player not available tonight.
Right, which you would think has to do with the injury. That's why I said it made no sense for him to not be practicing, for this to be such a major headline, and for them to say he might be, might not play at all, might be limited. Oh, now he's full workload.
Yeah.
That's what they were just trying to get everybody, including this Jets defense and their staff, to think so they could game plan. It's simple stuff, people. And already, yes, of course,
the line
money
has to be moving,
money,
right?
Of course, money's coming in. I'm seeing right now threes across the board. DraftKings down to 3. All of the offshores, everything is down, and they are jumping quick at this because the Jets' money was already flooding in. Now, of course, even much more so.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, just go back to the graphic we had last segment. Again, let's repeat this for people so they understand the significance. Last year, or last season, when the 49ers had Purdy, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo, and Trent Williams on the field together, they averaged 7.3 yards per play. And again, they led the league last year in yards per play at 6.6. So just figure that out. When it was 6.6 for the entire season, but it was 7.3 when McCaffrey was on the field, or all those people were on the field. That tells you the significance of that core being able to make that San Francisco Kyle Shanahan offense, which is so predicated on the run, function effectively.
Yeah. And you also have Brandon Ayuk, who's not fully healthy. Your
Trent Williams is going to be on a pitch count, maybe?
Trent Williams is going to be pitch count or just, not up to snuff. Everything I thought about this Niners squad heading into this game, all of the question marks, this just puts an absolute dagger in it. And I know the books don't want to overreact with this line here, but I don't even know if 3 is enough. I think on paper right now, by far the Jets are the better team.
It is a game changer, no question about it. And if Christian McCaffrey is not going to be there, it's going to mean Brock Purdy and everybody else is going to have to rely on other, look at the first Super Bowl, the touchdown they scored in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. It was a throwback to McCaffrey, and he weaved his way through the secondary of Kansas City and put them up 10-0. That's the kind of guy you're missing tonight, who can turn a nothing play into something and put points on the board. That changes everything dramatically.
He runs it. He catches passes out of the backfield, all usually ending. I want to know what percentage of the scores he had for the Niners, because it was a lot, which makes sense why we're seeing a ton of money go to the under now. It already was there, but open 45.5 down to 40 tees. 42 is now pretty much across the board.
Well, we'll also remember a couple years ago in the NFC Championship game against the Eagles, when all of their quarterbacks were injured, at some point McCaffrey had to line up under center.
He could do anything.
McCaffrey was their emergency quarterback in that situation after both Brock Purdy and Josh Johnson got hurt, and that's why the rules changed. That's why the rules changed. Now you have an inactive quarterback, but if you need him, you can play him, and you have to designate him. So even if a third string quarterback is inactive, because of that NFC Championship game a couple of years ago, that's why that rule has changed. All right, we are set now for a really, really great Monday night game without Christian McCaffrey. For Claudia, Emerson, Stormy, and everybody else that was part of it, thank you for being part of the first pregame power-up. We will be here all season long, and we will be back on Thursday night. Enjoy the game, everybody.